Hello and welcome to my new channel where we take old clothes and make it fashion. So if you like upcycling and DIY fashion videos, make sure to check out my channel because I do a lot of that and a lot of cool stuff. But today I'm just gonna do a little explanation on how to sew in a dot. So usually you have like a dot shown on a pattern, but in an upcycling kind of situation, what I usually do, you might have to pin in the dart yourself. And you can check out how I did that, for example, in this video where I ripped off an Alexander McQueen blazer. So darts are basically extra seams that you make in your garment to make it more body fitting. And to understand a little bit how they can shape a fabric, you might think of the pattern of like this kind of beach ball. Those pattern parts are also usually these kind of triangular shapes, and the negative space of that is basically the dart. So this is what darts usually look like, those cute little triangles that you can find on your pattern. So as a first step, it's important that the lines are drawn well on your fabric on the inside in this nice and pointy triangle. The lines don't have to be straight, like sometimes they're a little bit bent, so take that into account. So you can fold your fabric like the good side on the good side, just like a normal seam. And make sure that the lines of the triangle are on top of each other. You can check this with your pins, just push one pin through and see if it comes out in the other line. And a little trick to know where the triangle ends is to place two pins a few millimeters before the end of the triangle. So when you're sewing, you can easily see like, okay, now I almost have to sew off the fabric. Don't look at me for example because I forgot the 2-pin method, but I would recommend to do that because it makes it just a little bit easier. So you'd start sewing at the edge of the fabric, and here you can just like normally go with a back stitch to attach the thread. Then you keep sewing straight on along the line, and once you see your 2 pins, you know, I have to pay attention to just keep sewing very carefully straight on, and you just sew straight off the fabric. Just like that. Don't go with a back stitch. Don't cut the threads off completely. Leave them hanging on there so that you can make like 3 knots by hand. And even when I'm done with the knots, I'm not gonna cut the threads completely off because then they might loosen later. So just leave them hanging on there for at least like 1 centimeter. So that's your dart. Now you can just go ahead and press it. And we have just created this rounded shape, so you don't want to go over that with your iron and
Ruined? Why are you saying it like that? Saying what? I'm just pointing out the party's ruined. You know what? I'm not going to get sucked into this. Okay, just so I'm sure, really?
You just want to really carefully only press open where the stitch was. So if you have any tools or a little ironing board, you can use also the side of an ironing board to do this more carefully, but don't press the whole fabric flat. So the second method is almost the same, but we're going to do a little trick to help with the pressing later, and that means that we're going to sew in a little piece of fabric, and that can be nestles. So you're not going to do this on the back of trousers usually. You're going to do this in a jacket or maybe a dress that is lined. You're going to start the same by attaching your thread on the edge of the fabric, sewing over the line. Only you're not going to sew off the fabric this time. You're going to take the piece of fabric and pin it at the tip of the triangle, pin it at the end of the line, and you're sewing the piece of fabric under your dart basically. Now you can just attach your thread at the piece of fabric with a backward stitch and a forward stitch. So to press it now really lovely, you can just open the dart, cut it open with the scissors until the piece of fabric. And then I made a little cut towards the threads as well, so that it will open nicely. And then press the first part of the dart open like a normal seam. And then the last part of the dart, you're not going to cut that open of course, because you might ruin your fabric.
What do you call the remains of ancient Greek structures? Ruins. And how would you describe this evening? Well, ruined, of course. This evening is ruined.
So you're just gonna press the piece of fabric that you've sewn along with the dart to the one side, and you're gonna press the tip of the dart to the other side. You just press it open carefully with the tip of your iron. And this can be really nice if you have like a little bit of a thicker fabric, for example, that you want to press well, like maybe a flannel for example. So let me know in the comments, did you manage to make a beautiful dart? Did you think it was helpful? If you did, please give it a like. And if you're into upcycling, kind of DIY fashion videos, consider checking out my channel because there's a lot of cool stuff there. For example, this crazy patchwork top that I recently made. and consider subscribing for weekly fresh content. So thank you for watching, guys, and I hope to see you in the next video.